Hello ladies and gents, welcome to episode 21 of Moviefiles 100 Movies in 100 Days. As you know, we're celebrating week 2 of Bill Murray fortnight. So being that this is week 2, I'm looking at his more decisive roles, the stuff that sort of changed him from being a comedic actor to more of a serious actor in a sense.
Bloody, I'm in 1103.
But what is serious? Is it more the fact that he drives more of an emotion in regards to looks at these characters in a more in-depth way, instead of being his pleasant and quirky self? Kind of, in a sense, that's what this does. We look at those films that are very emotional and very sort of, they tend to pull on your heartstrings. And with that being said, let's look at the 2005 film Broken Flowers, which also starred Sharon Stone. It's a French-American film directed by Jarmusch. The film focuses on the aging Don Juan, who Murray is, as he goes on the search for his young son. So he wants to find out who this kid is and if there's any sort of purpose in his life.
Where is he? Where is he?
He's literally a millionaire with everything. He saved his pennies, he has a nice house, he has a nice friend, played by Jeffrey Wright, who I don't know if he's actually speaking like he's Indian or Jamaican. It's rather weird in this movie, the accent he keeps pulling on.
Look, your whole trip, it's all planned, booked. Reservations, rental cars, everything you need. All you have to do is give them a credit card.
What are you talking about?
You go visit them.
But we can go more into that as soon as we actually start looking at those aspects of the films, including the acting. So let's go into story. Don Johnston.
He's got to deal with the heat, man. Be patient.
No, not that Don Johnston. He's a former Don Juan, having made a fortune in the computer industry. He's made a very quiet and subtle life as he lounges around watching old movies, just feeling no purpose in his life. His girlfriend Sherry decides to end their relationship and go on her merry way. She looks more like an air hostess, but yeah, you know those kind of air hostesses. As she leaves, a letter in a pink envelope arrives. The letter is from an unknown ex-girlfriend who states to him that his young son, who at the age of 19 is going on search for his father as he's been asking questions. His friend Winston, played by Jeffrey Wright, decides in his very bad accent that he wants to help him try and find his son, so he gives him a list of all his ex-girlfriends and gets him to research the addresses, where they are, the locations, so he can go on a plane ride across the continent just to see if he can actually find any one of them and if they are the mystery person who wrote this letter. Now, part of the kick is he's going to go down to their homes holding a bouquet of pink flowers. That way they can see that he appreciates them and that he's following in the same vein as they are because of the pink letters. This thing's about colours. It doesn't really need to actually have that emphasis, but I can see what they're trying to do here. It's sort of like matching the whole tone of this person's life, and so he can figure this out by giving them a pink rose because of the pink letters written on the pink typewriter.
I see a whole lot of pink flamingos.
Ultimately though, Don meets 4 women and each encounter seems worse than the last. The first, played by Sharon Stone, Laura, isn't at home. At first he's greeted by her daughter, who decides that she wants to take all her clothes off, be naked in front of the guy, and just show off every bit of coochie that she has. Girl has father issues. That night he meets up with Laura and everyone sits there and has this weird little conversation, and there's a hint of sort of a mother-daughter threesome if he wants it, because that's the way this family rolls. He then wakes up sprawled in Laura's arms as she asks him what he's doing there. He said that they went to bed with each other after having a long dinner and then decides to leave, depressed, while her daughter goes out parading herself in her bikini because she wants some of the old man novel. Kinda sad. The second is Dora.
Hola, soy Dora.
No, not that Dora. A realtor wants a flower child of the 1960s. He asks her about her life and what she's doing at the moment, and then bumps into her husband, Ron, played by Christopher McDonald.
He's in money. But now I got a new reason, kicking your ass.
Well, I'd like to see you try. Let's do it. Like, I'm on a golf course.
Yes, that Christopher McDonald. He then basically goes up to Don about every aspect of their lives and how awesome their lives are. He tries to question her about children to see if they have any kids, but yet her husband decides to humiliate her even further by showing old pictures and stuff of her to Don, sort of trying to find out more about him and also rub things in his face like how rich they are and how awesome their lives are. The third is Carmen Makowski, who's played by Jessica Lange, works as an animal communicator. She talks about how the fact that she can listen to these animals and also speak in their same language, and the fact that this brings her loads of wealth, and every person on the planet decides to bring their animals to her so that she can talk about their frustrations and their anxieties, because people are nuts. She then gets her secretary to throw Don's flowers back in his face, states to Don that she doesn't want to talk to him, and then looks at Don like he's an arsehole when he tries to ask her if she has any children. And then finally the fourth, a woman by the name of Penny.
How pathetic is that?
No, not that Penny. She lives in a rural area amongst bikers, and she holds a grudge against Don for some reason which nobody knows about, and then when he asks her if she has a child, proceeds to slam the door in his face, as one of the bikers decides to get in his face and punch him, knocking him out. Don wakes up in his car and decides to go home, feeling that none of this is worth the hassle and that he just wants to be left alone. Don then gets flowers and gets bandaged up by a young by the name of Sun Green, and then places flowers on the grave of the fifth woman by the name of Michelle Pope, who Don originally thought might be the mother. He then stops by a place where he goes to eat and meets a young lad. He then attempts to talk to him on the level and discuss with him about a few things before the kid gets really annoyed with him after he asks him if the kid thinks that he's his father. The kid then proceeds to run off as he runs down the road chasing after him, and then sees another car pull into the driveway with a fat kid with long hair, kinda looks like him. The funny thing though, that the kid's actually played by Homer Murray, who's Bill Murray's real life son, and he's listening to music which Don himself listens to while Don is standing in the middle of the row in the movie end. As this is a French film, it talks about symbols, so the narrative in this movie talks about the ages of life and death. So as he goes from each stage of each character, as they go from the beginning of the life, as you can see with Sharon Stone's daughter in the movie, and she presumes and excludes this sexual energy, and then it withers down to the other stages that eventually leads to death as he goes to the last wife, Michelle. We also see the aspect that he sees himself as being alone. It's the same sort of thing that you'd see when he was playing his character in Lost in Translation, where he wasn't actually alone, but he was alone, feeling depressed and underwhelmed, and this is exactly how Don feels. And also the desperation of trying to find his son so he doesn't feel like he's truly alone, like he wants to spend the rest of his life with someone. You know, it doesn't have to be a woman, it just has to be someone that he can pass his knowledge down to, like his child. The film itself is a unique and independent masterpiece. It forms on the fact that it understands the limitations of human life in a sense, but it's also very independent based. It's not done on a huge Hollywood budget, it's done to show more variation in emotion and to actually work on characters and story instead of being very glitzy and glamorously like the Hollywood movies that you see with Michael Bay. Yes, Transformers, we know you're awesome. Bill Murray as Don Johnston is extremely good in this role, and it's a character that he's rather accustomed to playing. These types of depressive, outlandish, rather old figures who are trying to come to terms with some sort of their life, and he's kind of pigeonholed himself in this role, quite frankly, because of the fact that he's doing these sort of art house films and these rather unique characters, so to speak, instead of playing the latter years where he was playing all these funny and upbeat and young and virile type characters. Really opposite to what Murray used to play. Jeffrey Wright as Winston, he's a rather good actor. I've seen him in the Bond movies play rather rigorous, rather aggressive type characters, but in this he seems like rather snoopy, rather intricate, and also rather interested in Don's life, like he has no life of his own. But he seems like a very family man as well. They're rather opposite to Don's character, that he has it all but still, you know, needs to find something to lift up his own spirits. And I think putting himself in Don's life and trying to find out what Don's up to is kind of his way of trying to find his own unique sense of individuality, in a sense. But the one thing that really annoys me about his character is the accent. I don't know whether it's Indian, whether it's Arab, or whether it's Jamaican. I think he's trying to play a Jamaican, but it just doesn't really come across. And I don't know why it bugs me so much. I'm kind of a stickler for voice when it comes to certain individuals. I feel like if you can't do your voice, just play the character straight. It's worked for certain people. If you look at, you know, Layer Cake Witch, Daniel Craig was supposed to play an American in that and decided to do rather English and played the character the way that he wanted to play it and play it straight instead of trying to use some phony voice, which he had no idea how to, you know, do. Sharon Stone as Laura Daniels Miller, she's only in it for about 5 minutes. Funny, she's uplifting, but she's also someone who's rather stressed out with her life and kind of ignores raising her daughter. She's really intricate to the fact that her daughter's an extreme slut, and I mean extreme slut. She probably gives a postman one when he comes to deliver the mail, and it's just more the fact that her daughter just doesn't understand anything about men and just wants a man in her life and wants to try everything she can to get it. Laura's pretty much the same way, where she doesn't really try to be the parent of a sense. She just wants to hide away from everything else, and when she sees Don, she thinks that he's there to sort of take her away from all this, like he's like a white knight. And in a sense, we can't really see much of the supporting cast, as that's all they do. They surround his character, and this film is pretty much a Murray movie. You get to walk with his character, understand what his character's going through, and experience the journey. And if you want to see this movie for the journey, then it's a great movie to see. If you're expecting to find a conclusion, then you're not going to find one, to tell you the truth, because of the fact that there's no conclusion in this movie. It's literally will give you the runaround for the next hour. Even though this film won the 2005 Grand Prix from the Cannes Film Festival and it was nominated for the Palme d'Or, for me it didn't really do much. It told a very basic story, one that was very similar to like roles that Murray had played before, but in a sense it was something that had a very nice story. It also had very nice sort of subtle undertones to it as well, and if you're looking for a rather depressing story driven film, this will probably be your cup of tea. So as you know, I give the films a 1 to a 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, and everything in the middle is acceptable. I give this film a 3. It doesn't build too much on the characters. We don't get to see why Don's life has ended up the way it has. We get to see fragments of it and try to draw our own stories from that, but it doesn't really help in terms of building his character. And there's no resolution. That's the biggest thing in this movie. There's no resolution to his story. We don't get to find his son. He doesn't live happily ever after. He just seems more confused than when he started this journey. And in the end, that's not what you want. You need to figure out how the story goes. Complications work now and then, but only if you're looking at films like Memento and The Sixth Sense. Even The Sixth Sense rounded its own freaking story and wrapped everything up in a neat little package. But it's still a good movie. It's still a very good Murray vehicle, and it's something where I believe he excels at this time. So we'll hopefully get to see his next stage of his career once he moves away from these type of movies, if he chooses to. And that's pretty much it, guys. So I'll see you again for day 22 of Moviefiles 100 Movies in 100 Days, and check out my playthrough of Ghostbusters on Twitch TV. So I'll see you then, guys, and I hope you're having a great day.